Welcome, everyone. I'd like the call to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Newman,
Here.
Councilmember Taylor,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Adam,
Here.
Mayor McNamee,
Here.
and Councilmember Engler is absent.
Thank you very much. We have any public comments? Nope. All right. So I'm going to turn this over to our Assistant City Attorney, Patrick Ehirk, for comment, please.
Thank you, Mayor. We have a closed session item, and this closed session item pertains to existing litigation. The case is Ashra Shasawarzadeh versus City of Thousand Oaks. It's in Ventura County Superior Court, case number 2023 CUPP 007741. And this closed session is done pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 subsection A. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. So we will go into closed session. We'll return at 6 o'clock for our regularly scheduled meeting. Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to say that we were in closed session. I'd like to turn it over to Assistant City Attorney Patrick Heher, if he would give us an update.
Thank you, Mayor. For this item, there is nothing to report out for this meeting. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Let us all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Any requests for continuances or any public hearing agenda item from my council members? We're all good? Okay. So with that, we have some special presentations and announcements. I'm going to come around to the podium. Give me a few moments. I'd like to welcome to the podium Karen Sylvester. Karen, Vice Chair of the Council on Aging, along with other Council Aging Commissioners who are here with us tonight. I'm proud to be able to present you with this proclamation on behalf of the entire City Council designating May 2023 as Older Americans Month. The City of Thousand Oaks includes a growing number of older Americans who contribute their time, their wisdom, and experience to our community. We recognize that older adults play a key role in the vitality of our neighborhoods, networks, and lives. Additionally, the City Council wishes to express appreciation for the Council on Aging for representing our older adult community and commitment to supporting older adults. With that, I'd like to present to you this wonderful proclamation in a few words. That's for you. Excellent. Please step up to the podium. I'll hold that for you if you wish. Go ahead.
Mayor McNamee, City Council members, staff, on behalf of the Council on Aging, I do want to thank you for recognizing this month as an acknowledgement of all of the efforts that older adults bring to our community, and an appreciation for that and acknowledgement. As one of my fellow commissioners like to say, older adults is the fastest growing demographic, not only here in Thousand Oaks, but in Ventura County and throughout the country. So on behalf of the Council on Aging and all my commissioners, thank you very much for this acknowledgement.
I would like to ask my fellow council members to come up in front for a photograph, and please join us up in front for this. That's for you.
Thank you.
Let's go this way, right up over here. Next, I'd like to introduce our Cultural Affairs Deputy Director, Marissa Henke, to present update on the Cultural Affairs Department pop-up events. Is she here with us? Oh, there you are. Yes, please, it's all yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor McNamee and council members. It is my pleasure to be here to present information about our upcoming Pop-Up Arts and Music Festival. This will be our 6th year, and as the name suggests, the festival will feature free pop-up performances and activities at a variety of neighborhood parks throughout Thousand Oaks, offering the community the opportunity to participate and enjoy the arts in unexpected and distinct locations, and provide residents and visitors the ability to experience a front row seat to local and regional artistic talent, as well as nationally recognized performing artists right in their backyard. This festival will run over 5 weekends in the month of June, every Friday and Saturday evening at 7 p.m. The success of these events is due in part to the partnerships with community organizations such as the Conejo Recreation and Park District, our resident companies, Five Star Theatricals, and New West Symphony, Brogden Bay Presents, the Stagecoach Inn Museum, and TO Arts. Local residents have been very appreciative of having an opportunity to attend free events in their own neighborhood, as we have seen an increase in attendance over the past few years, with 2022 being our most well-attended. We are partnering with Brogden Bay Presents to bring John Jorgensen Bluegrass Band. John Jorgensen has performed previously here in the Janet and Ray Shear Forum Theater with Chris Hillman of the Desert Rose Band. To kick off pop-up, he will be performing at the beautiful historic Stagecoach Inn Museum on June 2nd. On June 3rd, we will be at Suburbia Park presenting Delfeo Marsalis and the Uptown Jazz Orchestra. He is known as one of the top trombonists in the country and is from the Marsalis family, which some consider the first family of jazz. For a little taste of New Orleans, I encourage you to join us. Last year, Suburbia Park was one of the most well-attended events, so be sure to get there early. June 9th, we are proud to partner with one of our resident companies, New West Symphony, to bring Ilya Sarav. This will be a great evening filled with renditions of all-time favorite jazz standards. Ilya has a passion for jazz that knows no bounds. We were fortunate to have him perform for us previously at the Los Robles Greens during the COVID pandemic when we were unable to have activities in the theater. We are thrilled to give the community the opportunity to see him again for free. On June 10th, we will be presenting Adrian and Meredith at Northwood Park. This park offers a beautiful setting to experience this fun, lively band that is sure to have you on your feet, clapping and dancing to some gritty vocals and fiery fiddling. We will be bringing wonderful live musical theater performers to Parque de la Paz on June 16th with our resident company, 5 Star Theatricals. They will have many of their fan favorites from past productions singing songs from the Beatles. Performers will include John Krause, recently in Hadestown on Broadway and the Wicked Tour, Ashley Argota, TV and film actress, and was on the Lion King tour, and Isabella Moore, recently in Legally Blonde, Sweeney Todd, and 9 to 5. June 17th, we will be at Kimber Park with Thousand Oaks native Mouse Rock. He is a local muralist who will be creating a large piece of art live that will be hung in the Fred Cavley Theater Gallery. Ventura-based jam band Shaky Fillin will be playing the soundtrack as the art unfolds. Memorable for their catchy songs and Let's Never Play It the Same Way Twice attitude. June 23rd, we are honored to present the 562nd Air Force Band at the Thousand Oaks Community Park. This 26-piece ensemble will entertain and inspire audiences of all ages. June 24th will be our first time at Glenwood Park. We will be presenting Quita Penas. Their name means to remove worries. Their mission is simple, to make you dance and leave you without a worry. Additionally, this will be our first time at Wildwood Community Park on June 30th with the international band Banda Magda. They perform in 6 different languages. Although you may not understand each song, they have the uncanny ability to engage the audience and take you on a musical journey that transcends words through music ranging from samba to Greek folk tunes and everything in between. This year, we are thrilled to close out the Pop-Up Arts and Music Festival with a Grammy-nominated Mardi Gras Indian troupe we have been trying to bring to our community for the last few years, Chawa, at Triumpho Park on July 1st. You won't want to miss this New Orleans party to round out the festival. All of the events are presented festival style. Audiences are encouraged to bring your own chair, blankets, and picnic baskets. We look forward to seeing you at these events in June. Thank you for your time this evening. Cultural Affairs Director Jonathan Surratt and I are available for questions.
Thank you for the presentation and the good work that you do. Council members, any questions? Excellent. Thank you so much. We have Drew Powers would like to make a comment.
Just really quick for the community, and thank you to Jonathan and Marissa. This is work that I think, as the council knows, is above and beyond the work here in our performing arts venues, and it was done with a goal, which is increasing audience engagement and taking arts out into the community, encouraging biking and walking, encouraging engagement in various neighborhoods all over town. You see a lot of effort went into program out to all corners of the community. This takes a ton of work. It's a big lift for this team, and I just want to acknowledge them and encourage everyone to take advantage of the opportunities.
Thank you. Again, thank you again for the work you do. Appreciate it. We're up to item 9, public comments. Madam Clerk.
This is the time and place for public comments. Speakers are requested to state their name and community of residence for the record. One individual has requested to speak, and pursuant to council standards, speakers are allowed 3 minutes. The yellow light displays when you have 1 minute remaining.
First up, we have on Zoom, Rosanna Guerrera. Rosanna, You have 3 minutes. Please begin.
My name is Rosanna Guerra, and I'm a 30-year resident of the beautiful city of Thousand Oaks. I'm here before you today thanking City Council for recognizing May as Older Adults Appreciation Month. While we all have heard of the growing population demographic of older adults in the U.S. and how it's reflected in our city, rarely do we discuss older adults as a generation that has been tempered by its unique experiences. I belong to a generation that has a specific name, baby boomers, whereas some younger than myself would like to call us boomers. And we are now a growing part of the older adult population. We are many, but we have seen and experienced a lot of history and monumental changes within our lifetime. By the time I was 10 years old, President Kennedy had been assassinated, followed by Martin Luther King, and then Senator Robert Kennedy. I've witnessed a lot of firsts: the first man on the moon, technological advances that were once only the stuff of science fiction, wars end and only to be transplanted to other countries. In all, a lifetime of change. All this is to say that as a generation of older adults, we continue to have value. And it's important to look at the depth of our collective experiences. Our contributions are many and continue. Older doesn't mean done or irrelevant, but rather has a connotation of depth of understanding and meaning of where we stand in the world. So take a moment, and if the impulse moves you, thank an older adult for their contributions and the trails they continue to blaze. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the comments. We move to item 10, consent calendar. Any questions from council? Any items you want to pull from consent calendar? We're good?
Move the consent calendar.
Would that be A, B, and C? Say yes, Mr. Adam. You're approving, or moving consent calendar A, B, and C, correct?
That is correct.
Excellent, thank you, sir. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Newman,
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adam,
Yes.
and Mayor McNamee.
Yes.
And that motion passes 4-0 with Councilmember Engler absent.
Thank you. We move to item 11, public hearings. Madam Clerk, or would you please open the public hearings?
Hearing advertised as required by law is open to consider agenda item number 11A, transition to district elections, map criteria, hearing number 2. There are no speakers.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have on Zoom our city attorney, Dave Womack. We have business analyst, Trippy Smith, if I'm saying the name correctly, and Mr. Doug Johnson, President of the National Demographics Corporation. All three are on Zoom. So the three of you, you have the floor. We look forward to your presentation.
You're mute, David.
There we go. Mr. Johnson.
Oh,
Okay, how about now? Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
All
we
right.
can. Hi, Dave.
My apologies. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and honorable members of the City Council. Tonight is the second of the 4 required public hearings we have associated with the city's transition to district-based elections. As promised, tonight's presentation will be very similar to our first presentation, with one distinction. Since the last time we met, we conducted our first community workshop. And that workshop was conducted virtually via Zoom on May 11th. And it was really a fantastic presentation. Lots of excellent information was provided and lots of questions were answered. And I strongly encourage everyone interested in this process to attend the next workshop that we have scheduled for Saturday, June 3rd. Tonight first we will hear from more about the workshops and about all of our ongoing public outreach efforts from Sydney Overly. She is the business analyst with Trippy Smith before she hands off the baton over to our demographer, Douglas Johnson, president of National Demographics Corporation. And with that, I will turn it over to Sydney.
Thank you, David. Doug, are you going to share your screen? Perfect. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. Thank you for having me tonight. My name is Sydney and I'm with Trepepi Smith. We've been helping the city with the outreach efforts for the district formation process, and there are a few highlights I'd like to go over tonight. First and foremost, the city launched a website, maptoaks.org, that is dedicated to districting. This webpage is a one-stop shop for everything districting related, including a schedule of upcoming meetings and mapping tools. At the beginning of this process, we also distributed a press release to the city's media contacts outlining the districting schedule and what residents can expect. We're working with the city to provide extensive social media engagement, including posts, stories, and event reminders across all platforms, and we've included this content in both English and Spanish. To enhance our outreach efforts, we've also contacted nearly 50 community leaders, organizations, and residents by phone and email to encourage them to get involved in the process and keep them informed about public meetings. We will be conducting one more round of phone outreach throughout this process, and we'll continue sending those direct emails ahead of public meetings and key deadlines. We've also created and distributed 2 flyers so far in English and Spanish to promote the upcoming community meetings, and we have 3 more planned throughout this process as well. As David mentioned, we hosted our first virtual workshop to help educate the community on the process and gather input on communities of interest last week. The attendees shared a lot of great input that Doug will be touching on in just a moment. And we have 3 more workshops scheduled, with the next one being in person on June 3rd. So we hope that everyone who wants to participate in this process will be there. Our outreach efforts will continue throughout the remainder of this process. And if there's any questions about our outreach efforts, I'd be happy to answer them. If not, I can go ahead and turn it over to Doug.
Yeah, let me fix what I'm sharing here. I shared the wrong screen. Sorry about that. Let me see if I get this right. Yeah. There. Oh, no. Sorry. PowerPoint is wanting to show it that way. Okay. So I will just jump in. For the council members and those that were here at the last hearing, this will sound familiar, as it will for those that made it to the community forum. But by statute, we do go through these 2 initial hearings to introduce residents who may have not heard this yet, or may have hear new information or have new thoughts this time as we go through this. Again, these are introduction slides designed to get the discussion going. We have no draft maps at this point. We start off by saying, first of all, with election systems, what we're talking about is changing how the council is elected. So currently, we have what are citywide, or what are called at-large elections, where candidates live anywhere and everyone kind of runs against each other for whatever seats are up in that given year. There are a few jurisdictions left in the state that are from district or have what are called residence districts, where you have to live in a district you want to represent, but the election is still citywide. But under the California Voting Rights Act, that is considered a by-district election system. I'm sorry, that is considered an at-large election system, not a by-district system. So it's just as vulnerable to legal challenge as a regular at-large system. And as a result, we're seeing those slowly disappear from California. What is replacing them and what is sweeping through the state is by-district elections, where candidates have to live in a given district, and only the voters in that district elect the candidate for that seat. This is all coming about because of the California Voting Rights Act, which passed back in 2002 and is written to specifically push jurisdictions towards by-district elections. Briefly, the California Voting Rights Act is based on the Federal Voting Rights Act, but the federal law had 4 tests that a jurisdiction had to fail all 4 of them before a judge would order them into by-district elections. What California did was remove 2 of those tests, and they're the 2 that most often were used as protection from jurisdictions that face potential challenges. So the size of the protected class population and evidence about whether race is overtly or covertly an issue in elections are federal tests that you have to fail before a judge will act, but they're not part of the California law. So all California relies on is a statistical analysis of, is there a correlation between the ethnicity of precincts and which candidates win those precincts. And so that statistical test is both made it much, much easier for plaintiffs to bring these cases and much, much more expensive to fight these cases in court. As a result, more of the expense than of anything else, we're seeing a change of districts sweep the state. In the top left, you can see we've had at least 275 school districts switch. We've had 36 community college districts now. 185 cities have switched. And just to put that in context, before this law came about, there were only 29 cities that had by-district elections. So we had 29 before this law was in place, and we've now added 185, taking us well over 200 in California cities that have by-district elections now. One county board of supervisors switched, only one because it was the last one. So now all 58 counties use by-district elections. And now we're seeing more and more activity in water districts and other special districts where legal challenges are being brought. And again, it's not that these hundreds of jurisdictions were violating anyone's voting rights or violating anyone's civil rights. It's the financial risk that's driving the size of this wave. And as noted in the cases so far in the bottom left, a couple of jurisdictions, a very, very small handful of jurisdictions, have actually fought these challenges, and none of them have successfully fought off the challenge. So everyone that has been sued so far has lost or settled. And you can see the settlement amounts on the right-hand side, and that's what's driving this change. Palmdale fought the case and had to pay $4.7 million. Modesto fought and had to pay $3 million, in addition to their own legal defense fees. So these huge costs are now driving this change as it sweeps the state. So under state law, there are really two phases to this process. This is the second of the initial hearings required by state law, where we don't have draft maps yet. This is just to get people informed and get the process going. And then the draft maps, residents can submit them anytime, and they'll all be processed and posted at least 7 days prior to the third hearing, which is currently, as you just heard, scheduled for June 20th. Out of that meeting can come public comment and council comment to have map revisions. Residents may get ideas for new maps. And so again, at least 7 days prior to July 11th, that'll be the 4th, so we'll do it before that, we'll be accepting public maps and then processing and posting those maps for residents to see and discuss at the July 11th meeting, with adoption currently scheduled for the July 18th meeting. This is a pretty fast process, but that is also set by statute. We have 90 days really after the demand letter came in from the plaintiffs to get this done before we go back into being exposed to potential litigation. So in order to keep those costs down, we have to go through this process fairly quickly. When drawing maps, there are really three sets of rules and goals for this process. The first on the left is the federal laws. So districts have to be equal in population with a very small couple of % margin of variation in there. We need to be sure that the districts comply with the Federal Voting Rights Act, which governs not just whether you have districts, but how those districts are drawn. And really it says if you have a neighborhood that is particularly concentrated of a protected class, so Latinos, African Americans, Asian Americans, or Native Americans. If you have a neighborhood that's particularly heavily populated by one of those groups, you cannot divide that neighborhood in a way that dilutes their voting strength. And yet at the same time, the federal law also says no racial gerrymandering. So race can be one consideration. For example, we might want to keep together neighborhoods that are concentrated in one of those groups, as I just mentioned. But race cannot be what the courts call the quote-unquote predominant factor. So those are the federal requirements, and now we have state requirements. In prioritized order in state law, first, we have districts must be geographically contiguous, so the pieces of a district must touch each other. The districts, as much as possible, must consist of undivided neighborhoods and communities of interest, and I'll come back to what is a community of interest. But we have to minimize the division of neighborhoods and communities of interest. The third state criterion is easily identifiable boundaries. We want to use things like rivers, freeways, and major roads that are easy for residents to understand. And the fourth and final California criterion is to keep the districts compact. And California defines that as don't bypass one group of people to get to a more distant group of people, unless you're complying with one of the higher ranked criteria when you do that. There's also a prohibition noted at the bottom here. California prohibits favoring or discriminating against a political party when drawing the lines. So we're just not using any partisan data when we look at these lines. We're focusing on neighborhoods and communities in the city. So those are the federal and state requirements or rules. The courts have also said there are other considerations that are acceptable considerations. These are usually called traditional districting principles. So these are not requirements. You don't have to do these, but the courts have said it's acceptable to consider these things once you've met all the other statutory requirements. One of the two is respecting the voters' choices or continuity in office. This is the idea of where we can, within the other criteria, trying to avoid pairing council members. The reason for this is to leave re-election decisions up to the voters. The voters elected the current council. It should be up to the voters, this time by district, to decide whether or not a given council member has earned re-election. Again, it's not a requirement that they be in separate seats. It's just a traditional practice to try to have them in separate seats where you can. The other traditional districting principle is future population growth. To a very limited extent, within that couple of percent margin that I mentioned in the equal population requirement, you can underpopulate a district if you know it's going to grow faster than the other districts. Again, it's not required, but it is an allowable explanation for why one district might be smaller than the others. And then there's a lot of data. I'm not going to go through all this data, but for every map, actually for every district in every map, we will provide all of this data. So you can see on the left-hand side, ethnic data broken down by total population, citizen voting age population, and then voter data. The key number on that side is the very top, the total population of 127,134. Dividing that by 5 gets us each district must have just over 25,000 people. So that's our target number, 25,427. Then there's a lot of data that can be used for identifying communities of interest if residents feel it's an appropriate definition. So age, language spoken at home, household income levels, and the ones that come up most often, single family versus multifamily houses, and renter occupied versus owner occupied housing. So if someone wants there to be a district that's majority renter, they'll be able to look at the demographic spreadsheets for each plan and see which ones have one or more districts that are majority renters. Looking visually at the Voting Rights Act data, Latino citizen voting age population, that's what CVAP stands for, is Citizens of Voting Age. This is the best measure, according to the courts, of the eligible voter population. So where it's purple, Latinos are less than 25% of the eligible voters, and where it's green, yellow, and red, Latinos are a majority of the eligible voters in those blocks. And you can see the colors generally get as what we call warmer, more blue, green, yellow, and red along the 2 freeway corridors. And so those are the concentrations. Really, you have a couple of spread out concentrations, but each of those pockets we want to keep intact, as I mentioned when talking about the Federal Voting Rights Act. For Asian Americans, we don't really get much in the way of a geographic concentration of the city's Asian American population. A couple places where it's more blue than purple, but still not areas where we're getting a majority in any way that would impact the demographics of an entire council district. And similarly for African Americans, there's one census block up in the north that is majority African American, but the numbers in that block are not going to impact the population of an entire council district. And of course, we're not going to divide that one block. So the only real voting rights concerns we have to keep an eye on is that Latino map showing those concentrations, because they're the only ones geographically concentrated. Here are some maps showing the other factors. Of course, all the factors that are available can be mapped and are available on maps. So you can see income in the top right. Below it on the right, we have the renters. So again, you can see those freeway corridors, particularly the 101 corridor, a lot more renters right along the freeway than when you get farther away from the 101. And on the left, we get children under age 18 at home. So over on the west side of town, are more likely to have households where there are children age 17 or younger in the household. So these are considerations that residents might want to think about as they're evaluating or drawing maps. So I mentioned the state law for keeping neighborhoods and communities of interest together. And part of this process and a big focus of these initial two hearings is what are the city's neighborhoods and communities of interest? So if residents have thoughts and suggestions, or the council does as well, I want to ask, what do you define as your neighborhood? And in particular, what is geographic boundaries? Because that's how we can incorporate it into a map. Could be an area around a park, an area around a school, an area between two major roads, whatever residents consider their neighborhood. We want to hear that and try to take that into this process. Communities of interest are a little bit more of a vague idea. They're a little harder to define. So what we want to know is what defines your community. It can be a geographic area, like a neighborhood, or it could be a shared issue. It could be traffic, it could be limited English fluency in certain areas. Something that is interrelated with or impacted by a city policy is really what we're looking for communities of interest. And what we want to hear is, what is your community's story? That should include what geographic areas are covered, because again, if it has to be a geographic area for us to consider it in a map, and what ties that community or shared interest binds that community together. There is a second piece of the community of interest question, though, under state law. We do want to know, when you think about your issue group or your socioeconomic group that you think is a community of interest, does it benefit from being included in a single district? Often the answer is yes, because that puts all the votes together and that maximizes the chance of electing a council member. But sometimes that answer is no. Because of course, keep in mind, it still takes a majority of the council to do anything, to get any policies passed, or to get action taken by the city. And so it may be that while you have a shared interest or socioeconomic characteristic, it may be that you think your area would be better if it was divided, so it had multiple council members answering to it and coming out and knocking on doors and campaigning in that community of interest. This often happens in areas like senior community housing, where voting turnout is really high and they know there'll be a big influence even if they're divided in 2 seats, and so they want to be divided in 2 seats. Could be an economic area like a downtown area. So when you're thinking about communities of interest to propose, think about how do you define it, and does it benefit, or would it benefit from being entirely encompassed in one district, if that's even possible. State law does mention, however, the communities of interest may not include relationships with parties, incumbents, or candidates. So it can't be that we're a community of interest because we back candidate X. It has to be some kind of socioeconomic or policy issue tying it together. That's what we're looking for in public input in this initial phase before we have any draft maps. And so at the initial hearing, and in particular at the May 10th Community Forum, we did get a number of comments regarding various neighborhoods and communities. I've summarized them here. Obviously, the discussion is much more in-depth at that forum. But things that did come up are the freeway corridors have similar characteristics. Some people mentioned looking at school attendance areas would make sense. There were a couple of comments about keeping the downtown area together and trying to define that. Some folks mentioned Encino Vista, and other folks mentioned that the areas kind of Westlake Village adjacent are somewhat more similar to Westlake Village perhaps than to other parts of the city in some characteristics. So these are not things that you need to agree or disagree with. We're looking for a wide variety of input, but these are just examples of things we've heard about so far. So lastly, as I wrap up the presentation here, in addition to sharing your thoughts, you can also actually draw the map yourself. We have a lot of different tools for people to dive into the depth they want, but I do want to emphasize that these tools are empowering tools. There's no requirement to do any of this. They're simply tools that for people that want to use them to take the next step to dive in. But as it says on the slide, whether you use the online mapping tool, paper kit that I'll talk about in a moment, or just draw on a napkin or share your thoughts verbally, we welcome your maps and thoughts. So first of all, there's an interactive map. Essentially, this is Google Maps with overlays. And so you can see here the population units I'll talk about from the paper map in a moment. But the key thing is on the right-hand side are all these layers. As there are draft maps, all the draft maps will get added to this table. So you can check to go through the maps, you can enter an address and zoom in and see which district you're in each map. And then you can see kind of shaded out in the right-hand side, there are all these different options for the different demographics that I've talked about. It can all be seen in the interactive map, which is available on the project website. But this tool is just for reviewing maps and viewing them. It doesn't allow you to draw a map. The simplest way to draw a map is to take one of the paper public participation kits. These are PDF files you can download off the project site or pick up from City Hall. And you see these cities divided up into small geographic areas, each one with a number on it. That's the number of people in each of those areas. So as you draw your lines, you just take a pen or a crayon or whatever you feel like and draw around and you add up the numbers until you get to that 25,427 target. Then you stop, change your color, or start drawing however you want the second district and go through until you have 5 districts. Or if you want to just draw one, you can just draw one. But this is a very simple way to draw maps and make sure they are population balanced. But if you want to get more fine-tuned, if you want to dive in and look at more data, demographic data, or be able to draw it city block by city block rather than population unit by population unit, then you want to try the online tool. It's a very powerful tool. It has a ton of data and you have all kinds of capabilities in here. It does take a little bit to figure out. So on the website, there's a short 4-minute how-to video that you just once you breeze through that, this will all be really easy. But it really boils down to a paintbrush and an eraser. And you just choose the color of the district you want to draw and start painting in these precincts to draw your districts until you get to that number. And of course, the website keeps track of that data and will give you the numbers as you go along. The key thing with this, though, is that you can work on it with friends. You can start it, come back to it. So you do have to log in, and you can come back in and go out as you work on your map and fine tune it. Once you're done, you do have to click the share button up in the top right, and it'll give you an email link, and you email that link into the city to the email address that I'll give in a moment. Because until you email in that link, we don't know that you've drawn a map. So to submit your map, you can share it out, you can publish it so other people can see it, and then you email that link to the city so we know you're drawing your map. So that concludes the presentation. Hopefully we'll get some comments, and as Sydney mentioned, there's been a lot of comments already at the forums about neighborhoods and communities of interest. If there's any questions now about the mapping tool, I'm happy to answer them as well. And of course at the forums, they do a full demo of the tools. There is also, I should mention, a survey. So if you go to the project website, maptoaks.org/survey, you can just write up a write-up about your community of interest. You don't have to map it, just describe it. And of course, you can learn a lot more at that website. You can call in if you have any questions, or best of all, email in any questions or email in those links as you draw your maps. And if you do the paper kit, you can just take a photograph with your phone and email in that photograph. That's all we need. So that's the presentation for tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions now or after the public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Council, any questions for staff? Mr. Newman.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for your presentation. Very interesting to hear the public comments. In addition to those raised at the workshop, I received a call from a resident who expressed a concern that this exercise would in some way take away their rights. And so my only question is there anything about this exercise that would take away any right from any resident that they enjoy today?
Well, I'll jump in first. I suppose if they wanted to be able to vote for, once you move into a district election, you're only voting for the members or the officials that want to run for that district. So you would lose the ability to vote for someone in another district, but I think that's the only one that I can think of. And I wouldn't characterize that as a right, but it would be different. Doug, do you have any comments that you'd want to add on to that?
No, that's exactly what I was going to say is instead of having, one vote in the whole city for each of the 5 council members, now you'll just have one vote just in your district. So a much more strongly weighted vote, but just for one council member. Exactly as you said.
Thank you. That's all.
Very good. Any other council questions? Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments? No public comments? So I thank you, Mr. Womack, Ms. Overly, and Mr. Johnson for your terrific presentation. Thank you very much. Look forward to this continued process, and I do ask that our city participate in this process by going online to the website that was given and make your comments. We want to hear what you have to say. With that, staff, any comments or thoughts?
I don't have any comments, additional comments other than what we've stated.
Very good. So with that, Madam Clerk, can we close the hearing? Excellent. And council, any, well, actually, all we need to do right now is just a motion. Mr. Adam.
Thank you, Mayor. I will move 11A, the transition to district elections.
Thank you, sir. Any other, any discussion comments? Let's move the vote. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Newman,
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adam,
Yes.
and Mayor McNamee.
Yes.
And that motion passes 4-0 with Councilmember Engler absent.
Thank you. We're going to turn it over to City Manager Drew Powers. Drew?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. We'll be back meeting again next week. We have our annual priority and goal setting session. That'll be held at the Los Robles Greens Golf Course, 6 o'clock next Tuesday evening, the 23rd of May. Hope everybody has a wonderful week.
Thank you. And until then, we'll adjourn to our regular meeting, May 23rd. Meeting's adjourned.